Constance, Marten and Mark Gordon have now been charged with gross negligence manslaughter after the remains of a baby were found in an area of woodland in Brighton. Barry Hughes.
Fair use.
Chief Crown Prosecutor for London North has issued the following statement. The CPS has authorised the Metropolitan Police to charge Constance Marten and Mark Gordon with gross negligence manslaughter. Constance Marten, aged 35, and Mark Gordon, aged 48, have also been charged with concealing the birth of a child and perverting the course of justice. These charges arise from their arrest on Monday as a result of a lengthy police investigation to establish their whereabouts and that of their baby. It continues, the Crown Prosecution Service reminds all concerned that criminal proceedings against Constance Marten and Mark Gordon are active and they have the right to a fair trial.
So I just wanted to give the rundown to those that, you know, most of you probably won't know about this story, which is a story that's happening here in Britain. First and foremost, please press a 1 if the sound is good. If you're in the building, please hit 1 if the sound is good. Otherwise, I assume that it is, so I'm just going to proceed. But in any case, salute to everyone who's in the building right now. I see Captain Tolson in the building, salute to you. I see Dodgy in the building, salute to you. I see someone called Dan's White, salute to you. He, she says, how about the millions of successful IR marriages and relationships? We're going to get through to that and why this is basically on the docket as a talking point. Okay. Not in a good mood. I'm irritable. And to be honest, I wanted to talk about something else that's been quite pressing. It's to do with the issue of Black British men supporting. Right. But that will come another day. I'm going to get through this topic tonight. But if you're in the building, please press a 1 to make sure the sound is good. If not, I'm just going to commence and start. So the gist of what is happening here, basically, as showcased earlier, there is a couple who have now been reprimanded, but they were on the run, right? One of them is apparently an aristocrat's daughter. The other is a former felon, right, who's done 20 years behind bars, which we're going to get into in a sec, okay? And unfortunately, what came out of this incident was that a newborn baby died, right? This investigation is still undergoing, so we're trying to uncover all information. In fact, I didn't want to really talk about this because the information is so scarce right now, but something was just pressing me to talk on this, okay? So I'm going to read a very good article that details these two people before I kind of cut to the chase of what I'm talking about, okay? So let me just share this article. Okay, so who is Constance Marten? The story behind the runaway heiress, right? The former aristocrat has been arrested alongside her sex offender partner, Mark Gordon. So, you know, one of the serious things about this case is that, you know, this black man is painted in a very bad light, right? As you hear as we go through this article, Constance Marten has dominated headlines in recent weeks. The former heiress has been on the run with Mark Gordon, a convicted sex offender, since the start of January, and it is known that she had recently given birth at the time of her disappearance. Okay, already a gruesome tale. The pair abandoned their car in Bolton, travelled on to Liverpool, Essex, and London, and then paid for taxis in cash, booking hotels under fake names. So for whatever reason, they're on the run, right? And this woman has just recently given birth to a child, okay? At least 1 month old. Marten and Gordon also successfully, let me get this dumb little ad off, man. Marten and Gordon also successfully evaded CCTV for the most part, despite their face being plastered across front pages for 53 days, but were this week cited by a member of the public in East Sussex, which led to their arrest. So they're arrested now, and the story is going to be uncovered. Okay, so they've been tipped off, and that's pretty much the gist of it. But I want to get down to who these two people on my thumbnail are. Okay, so Constance Marten was born in 1987 to Napier Marten and Virginie Deseliers. Both of her parents had a wealthy heritage, with her father having close ties to the royal family. Okay, so this is a very key point. This is a very key point, and this is one of my main points. Okay, this woman comes from a wealthy upper class background, close ties to the British royal family. Okay, Marten was educated at a well-respected boarding school, St. Mary's Shaftesbury, which is like $3,000 to $30,000 to get in a year, and went on to study Arabic and Middle Eastern studies at the University of Leeds in 2008. After graduating in 2012, Marten became a researcher at the London office of Al Jazeera before becoming a freelance photographer. Right, we can all agree that this is an upper class woman. Right, upper class woman. Salute Moonshine. Yeah, the details are very sketchy at this point, so I appreciate that as well. Okay, so this is her, you know. So it goes on to discuss who she is. You know, I think a lot of it is not as relevant as it should be, but I'll continue. By 2014, Marten had turned her hand to acting, enrolling in a drama course at East 15 Drama School in Essex. Okay, so they're talking about her talents, a very well-to-do person. That man, her classmate said she had changed and was in an erratic relationship with a man they'd never met. That man appears to have been Mark Gordon, so he's the man in the thumbnail of this picture as well, okay? Who Marten would later have a child with and go on the run. So we can assume that they've been together for at least a year or at least 9 months, right? She changed and she ran off with this guy and they've been on the run, right? She stopped posting on social media and became estranged from her family. The pair reportedly lived together in Ilford up until 2020. Neighbors told the Evening Standard, well, actually, this was further in the past, so they've been together for some time. Neighbors told the Evening Standard that they often heard shouting coming from the flat when they were evicted after allegedly causing extensive damage to the property they rented. So, okay, dysfunction is in this in this pairing. Okay, fast forward to 2023, and the pair made front page news when their car was found abandoned and ablaze on the side of the road. Marten is believed to have given birth in the back seat of the vehicle, and she, Gordon, and it's believed the baby proceeded to travel up and down the country before being arrested several weeks later. Okay, so that's pretty much her story, right? And now let's go on to who Mark Gordon is. So Mark, the fella in the thumbnail, okay? And it will all make sense while I'm reading this. Gordon, who is 13 years older than Marten, was born in Birmingham but relocated to Florida with his family when he was a child. In 1990, at the age of 15, Gordon was found guilty of kidnap and sexual battery. US court records document how Gordon broke into a neighbor's home before sexually assaulting and graping her. Okay, so this is a serious felon. The suspect was armed with a kitchen knife as well as a pair of hedge clippers, and after the victim came out of her bedroom to investigate the dogs barking, came across a suspect lurking just outside of her bedroom door. The courts record, right? So they're basically just detailing the fact that he was a convicted felon for the last 20 years, from 1990 to 2010. Okay, so what have Constance Marten... Okay, sorry, they go on to say that he spent 20 years in prison before being deported back to the UK in 2010. So after he did his time in America, he was deported back to UK since he is from Birmingham, right? So what have Constance Marten and Mark Gordon been arrested for? On the 28th of February this year, after 53 days on the run, Marten and Gordon were arrested by police on suspicion of gross negligence, manslaughter. More than 200 police officers using dogs, thermal imaging cameras, and drones took part in a search for the pair's missing baby, with fears mounting that the infant may have come to harm, right? So they were on a run with a little baby, just a little over 1 month old. And this is them caught on CCTV on Whitechapel Road last month, or at least 2 months ago now. Marten and Gordon were initially held on suspicion of child neglect, but further arrested on suspicion of gross negligence, manslaughter. If found guilty over a death caused by negligent behavior, they could face up to 18 years in prison. Okay, so already we're talking about a man who spent 20 years in prison, and now, after rightfully, fairly doing his time, he might be spending 18 years in prison, as well as this so-called aristocrat's daughter. The couple remain in custody, and police have now said the body of a baby has been discovered close to where the pair were arrested. Okay, so it's highly likely that their baby has been killed. Their baby has died. A 1-month-old baby has died. In a press conference announcing the news, police added that an application for an extension for their detention for a further 36 hours was sought and granted by Brighton Magistrates Court. Okay, so that's pretty much the deal. That's pretty much the situation. Right. And, like Moonshine in the Building rightfully said, the information right now is very sketchy, but what we have is what we have. And we have, I think, a good catalog of information to kind of work with. And that's why I was going back and forth on whether I should go forward with this. Okay. But I think there is a relatable and something to learn from the situation. So why is this deep for me? Obviously in the first instance, a baby has died. Why did the baby deserve this? Like on these so-called Black British streams, especially throughout the whole of last summer, last autumn, a core issue we identify is the importance of being raised in and amongst a healthy family environment. Right? And without that healthy environment, negative traits will follow. Neglect, as in this report. We get the lack of support, the lack of attention. Right? A lot of us feel unloved. Minimal support. And then we grow up and then we end up being ineffective people, impotent people, people who are not able to penetrate life like we really should. And so from that, we grow angst and we grow bitter, and it ends up affecting our worldview, right? Like I've been going back and forth recently about this whole Michael B. Jordan situation. Some people want to celebrate the situation, that situation. Some people are out here blaming other people for their problems. But the reality is a lot of people didn't come from family environments that supported them on a personal level. And these are the results. No one to teach you about being a bold, confident, maybe even a masculine man, you know, someone who can teach you to speak up with your chest and to exert your will. Yeah, in most cases, without a father, you won't learn these things. You won't know how to apply these skills in life. So it negatively affects our worldview for usually, in most cases, our whole life. A lot of people don't get over this stuff. But in this sad case, it can also cause premature death. Right? And I think in a lot of cases, even if you grow up out of or from these bad family situations, many cases it ends up with people being in the pen or people dying prematurely because they just went into some gang violence or whatever. Lack of support, don't feel loved, reckless behavior. Right? So that's one reason why this is deep for me, why this topic is very it's hitting for me. I think the other reason why it's deep is because on national TV, we are seeing a headline of a white woman who is apparently an aristocrat's daughter, you know. So in layman's terms, an upper class, well-to-do individual who has entered into a relationship with a so-called former felon who's done 20 years behind bars and got deported, is a deportee. And unfortunately, this person just so happens to be a black man. This is the headlines that we are seeing all over the country, right? And the mugshots that unfortunately I have to use for my thumbnail is plastered on every headline throughout this country. So I think we can kind of all agree that this is a bad look. Now, when it comes to felonies, right, and felons, I'm a believer of people doing their time and basically not being tarred for life of a crime they might have committed when they were kids, right? And from what I understand from this guy, he committed the crime at like 14, right? And that crime rhymes with it rhymes with grape, right? So it's a very heinous crime that, you know, often leaves you with a stigma for the rest of your life. But hey, if you've done 20 years behind bars for it, then, you know, I'm willing to look over that, right? And that's what a lot of people, because unfortunately we have a lot of felons in the community, it seems, or a lot of former felons. That's the approach that a lot of people want to take, that, okay, forgive and forget and move on. Okay, cool. But isn't it telling that a former felon is now linked to another crime in a totally another country, like 10 years into the future after being released? Someone says, bad look for who? It seems you have an inferiority complex. I don't know what the hell you're talking about, you know, but just hit the like button and stay in the chat and shut the hell up. So 20 years in the future, a former felon commits another crime. And again, this is why I wanted to hold back on this story, because it absolutely paints the black guy in a bad light, right? And it makes the white woman seem untainted, and she's being called an aristocrat's daughter, right? As if she's been smeared by this former felon, right? And they also speak about the age gap. He's a few years older. But unfortunately, man, I have to speak my mind on this issue because it's been pressing, and I think it's somewhat of a learning situation. So I got a question for you guys in the chat. Why would an aristocrat's daughter be in a relationship with a former felon? Like, why why would this be a situation, or how can this be a situation? Like, was this guy just, did he just have a lot of swag and, he kind of took her off her feet? Or maybe he had the pipe to lay it down. Why, in what reality do these two people come together and then create a baby who gets killed? So maybe you're kind of understanding why my title is titled in this manner. Why would a daughter of a well-to-do family, upper class, what would she be doing with a felon of a heinous crime like rape? Okay, some people have answers. Maybe she's rebelling, or she has a fetish for such men. Another, she chose that man. I don't feel sorry for her. I heard that. Someone says, rebelling, bro. A lot have a rebellious character. Some of you might remember, I made a classic video. I think now this is probably about 4 years ago. And I hate to mention it because a lot of my videos back then were kind of too raw and too revealing. This video was called The N-holic. Press a 1 if you might have remembered that video. It's one of those series of videos that I had to clean up from our channel because, me being me, I just revealed a lot of information about other people, which isn't good, right? It's not good to talk about other people's personal stuff and document it to the public, even if it's vague. But that was the video I made called the N-holic. F-Frame remembers it. And I think online account remembers it. And Captain Tosin makes a good point. Maybe she's just as bad, hence why she chose him. Hey, I'm not even, one reason why I wanted to wait on this topic is to understand more about her. Right? I'm not trying to put her out of the spotlight because, like you said, she chose him. And that's part of my question. How does this well-to-do person who's done all this schooling end up with I don't even want to use the P word. I don't want to say Pookie because it's probably played out, and it's not really relevant to us in the UK, but where is the alignment is what I'm asking. How does this happen? So I made that video called the N-holic, and if you use your imagination, you can understand what the N might stand for. I'm not going to say it here. And yeah, look, if I keep it 100 with you now, in that video, I was peeved off with how I felt kind of fetishized, right? I was young, I was kind of naive. It's no excuse, but hey, that is what that was. And I think that fetishism, I can't say these tongue turners tonight, that fetishism, and I still can't say the tongue turners tonight, it acted as an elaborate ruse, meaning I felt greatly desired. But then in some cases, it felt like that desire was just tossed aside like a toy, like a plaything. Right? Now, I understand some people say, hey, I don't mind being objectified. I don't mind being a fetish because at least I'm being chosen and I'm being picked. And I hear that, especially coming from people who might have felt like they've been sidelined for most of their life. So it might seem refreshing. Right. But, I really took umbrage to that type of sentiment, to that type of manner in which some people are willing to deal with people on a romantic level. Right. And I think as I've grown, it has affected the way I see, things. I might not reveal everything on a live stream, but it's reality. I'm very cautious of being in those type of situations again. Don't get it twisted. I might make some passport bro videos, but I'm not really making it for myself. I'm just detailing some experiences that I feel some people might want to hear. And looking at the numbers, it seems like I'm correct. But yeah, that's not really me based on certain things that I feel. And really, I wanted to actually bring up some interracial marriage and divorce stats, like I typically do. I'll bring up some stats, but I don't feel like I have to do that. I think if you do your work, it's very well known that for whatever reason, a lot of interracial divorces are quite high. Right. I've got one UK article up here which has very good information on divorce and marriages, but because ethnicities don't seem to be stored in these stats that well, or it's very hard to find this, but there has been in-depth studies to showcase this. But to be fair, an article might say something like, it seems like mixed ethnicity households are least likely to have higher divorce stats because a lot of mixed ethnicity households or couples are not married, so they're just mainly cohabitating, right? The stats are really, it's hard to really base a lot off of them, to be fair. Yes, the stats can be BS, but without any other kind of evidence, I tend to want to use stats. But I do agree, and I can believe that, and I'm going to put forth why I think that might be true, and why I think that might be true, meaning why I would imagine there's a high divorce rate between interracial coupling, and perhaps particularly between black and white people in the West, is because of this situation here. Right? Where an aristocrat's daughter chooses a former felon who have, even in their relationship, showed signs of being, both of them being unstable. And even on the top of that, they will still go and create a child who has to die at 1 month old. Like there's an inability to observe differences in class. I know a lot of people don't like to think about class, but it's an effect, especially in Europe and the socio-economics. These differences is why a lot of these interracial relationships fail. I mean, what was expected? What do you expect the outcome to be with a convicted felon who spent decades in prison and some aristocrat's daughter who went to private schools and who were doing drama school and all this stuff. What is the outcome supposed to be? Oh, you're gonna just have a nice little balanced mixed kid, and things will be all hunky dory. You know, what did she see in him? And again, one of the reasons why I wanted to hold back on this is because I don't want to paint, I'm very sensitive to painting black men in a bad light because the media does a good job of that. But what did this type of person see in this person? Even if he didn't reveal his crimes, I'm sure in the behavior, or at least in the kind of socio-economic standing, you can see something that is unrelatable. And we can ask, what did he see in her? I mean, hey, I'm sure he may have been getting the bag. You know, I'm sure he probably hit the jackpot in that situation. But here's the thing, man. Like, when you want to create a family, you have to be serious. It's no joke anymore, because the joke ends up being on us and our messed up situations. And this is one of them. And I think, to be honest with you, man, I think we've got a lot of mixed race people in this middle position. And a lot of these mixed race people often end up despising one side of the family. Because, in my opinion, of these glaring differences that people did not want to acknowledge and recognize. Many instances in real life, man, where for whatever reason, some people want to say fetish, some people want to say this or that someone who comes from a well-to-do family is taking someone with a criminal or a kind of, unproductive background seriously, and then get surprised when that relationship dissolves, and then end up with children who have to live through that mess. And then it's going to be mixed children who already have this distorted situation, right? Because they are perceived, at least in the UK, as black people, but they are yet half white, but then they are in a society that is predominantly white. Then where do I fit in? This is the type of stuff that doesn't go into, that causes a lot of this messed up situations. You know, this is why these headlines were kind of deep. The lack of family planning and the decision to create children with unstable, potentially criminal people. And yes, look, I hate to be the stereotypical dude, but yes, in most of these cases, women choose these men. Right? And in this particular situation, this woman had most of the power. I'm sure she had most of the resources. I'm sure she booked all these hotels and took all these taxis. Right? So she was a driver in the situation. You know, and in this situation where a baby had to die because of reckless people. You know, and this doesn't just seem to pertain to interracial relationships, dude. This pertains to a lot of black relationships. A lot of the black family is busted in this way. You know, so what am I saying, man? What I'm saying is the learning point off of this headline is that stuff like this will continue to tar the image of black men. Because this dude is plastered all over the country, every news bulletin highlighting his criminal past. And so, yeah, someone made a joke in the Discord that, oh, what would her father be thinking? Oh, I told you not to mess with those ones, right? And yeah, a big part of that is that the so-called well-to-do women who entertain guys with this type of track record are making this situation happen. For whatever reason, what, he's dropping good pipe, you feel lonely, so you just want a guy in the house, whatever dumb, goofy reason, this is what's causing this, failing in the family. You know, and even if this does happen, right? Somehow, some way, you manage to raise up kids, and one parent is, I don't know, taking some hard drugs, and the other one is going to the office to do some professional. Like what? Like, how do you think the kids are gonna come up? You know, like, you know. And again, like this when the family isn't conducive for growth and health, well, this is the outcome. If it's not death, premature death, then it's a life of it's a lackluster life, a life of failing, a life of no support, a life of feeling unloved, a life of feeling distorted in your environment. Right. Another talking point that we bring up here is the what were parents thinking? Right. What are black parents thinking when they move to somewhere out in Wales, surrounded by people who don't look like them, and they want to raise a family there? What are they thinking? Do they plan about the mental health of their children? Do these people plan about the mental health? No. You know. So yeah, man. Look, this might just be a short stream, but I needed to get this off my head because it's been stressing me, man, and it's kind of relatable. You know, it's kind of relatable. If you want to jump on, if you want to air your thoughts, you're welcome to do so. I'll put the link in the chat. I'll put the link in the description to the video. If you have anything to add, feel free to jump on. Otherwise, I'm just gonna go through what you're saying in the chat. Yeah, man. I mean, this is why I believe a lot of interracial relationships fail. It's this this weird stuff. You know, a well-to-do aristocrat's daughter choosing, well, what you guys are saying in chat, a pookie. How does that happen? You know? And then we wonder how the family structure, the community, all the crimes, we bring up the stats in this country, the crimes committed by who? And when we look at these stats, the mixed ethnic group is always right behind the black ethnic group. So even though we want to say stats can be amended, well, hey, there's a consistent pattern here, and there's a consistent theme when families are built up the way they are. Right. So if anyone wants to jump on, I just want to know what you feel about this case. If you agree or disagree with anything I said about IR. If mixed people are in this weird situation, and if it's, if we can even blame them, right, when their parents don't even consider how their life will unfold, and if you agree or disagree if interracial divorces are at a higher rate, why so or why not? So feel free to jump on. I know this is a vague headline, but I just needs to bring it up to the surface. But let me read a super chat. In fact, I need a little beat here and there. Let me actually let me read a super chat from, let me go up. Salute to Dodgy in the building, man. Dodgy with a 199 super sticker, man. I really appreciate the support. Let me just give you a little theme tune that I do for my little that's work in progress, but I appreciate the support, man. I'm trying to get my my tunes up, But let me see what you're saying in the chat. No, bro, I'm not triggered, man. You didn't trigger me. I'm losing patience with the weirdo messages, to be honest with you, man. Losing a lot of patience with you faceless, like, you goofballs, man. I'm just being 100. Like the other stream that I wanted to do today was about support, because this has been on the agenda all the time. Oh, black men, why are we in the position, and why are black women overtaking us? Why don't black men support? And I asked this person, I'm not going to name names, I asked this person, oh, okay, have you ever shown support for the channel? You've been inhabiting this space for a few years now, and we talk about stuff that is related to you. Have you ever hit the super chat? No, soon I will soon. Well, then you answered your own question. This is why black men this is why there's no support. You don't support what you want to hear. You don't support the things that pertain to you. It's very, very simple. So like the antagonistic messages that bros want to do, man. I don't have the patience anymore, man. So yeah, let me see what you're saying in the chat. Moonshine says this is the only marketing and promotion we get, unfortunately. Yeah, there is something to be said about the negative press that this dude got, but to be honest with you, I think even if this guy wasn't black, it would still make the headlines, because it is still it's a tragic situation, but it's also a jarring situation in that we're talking about someone who comes from a family that is linked to the royal family of this country, who is on the run with someone who's just done time. Oh, so this is what John Red meant. Are you the person I was actually talking about? Are you the person who I was talking about in the Discord? He said, you said it's a bad look for black people. He's an individual. His actions are his own. Well, unfortunately, if you haven't noticed, as an ethnic minority, stuff like this will actually also affect your image. I'm all for we're individuals and I shouldn't be tarred. Yeah, that's correct. But when you're an ethnic minority, you are easily tarred by the actions of other people who might just look like you. So if that's what you mean by inferiority complex, man, you need to make better sense. Or furthermore, you need to hit the link and come up and elaborate on your talking points. This is another thing. You know, guys want to make these hot shot comments in the comments section. This is a live stream that I do twice a week. If you have any grievances, jump on. You know, but it's always the guys without a face that want to giggle in the back in the dark and make some wise ass remarks. Anyway, let me see what you're saying in the chat. Salute to Cortez in the building. Good to see you. Moonshine says she might be a much darker person than what we've been led to believe. The media won't tell us as it doesn't fit the narrative. Yeah, that's a great point. You know, and that's a great point. And that's why I was trying to hold off from talking about this, because yeah, this woman is being labeled as an aristocrat's daughter, as if, you know, this former felon has tarred her grace, you know. My eyes went deaf, says Pookie is accurate. Yeah, you know, I know, I hear you. And other people are also agreeing, but it is a Pookie, a degenerate. Yeah. You know, so my eye says 100% sexual fetish. Now, here's the thing, right? Because I also believe, and you know, I don't believe all attraction between people from different ethnicities or quote unquote races are just founded on sexual fetish. I think that is also in some cases a negative talking point against black men, as if to assume that no one finds black men attractive on a intellectual or mental level, and it's just purely physical and short term. Now, I don't fully believe that, but I think, of course, there are going to be situations, there are going to be people with that type of mindset, you know. And I'm not trying to tell people what they should accept and not accept, but for me, I just can't accept that if I choose to be in relationships. You know, I don't want access to sex just off of the back of being a fetish, to be honest. I don't need that, man. That's just a weak position. I have too much pride and dignity to be someone's toy. Online account says opposites attract. It seems she is upper class women and he was a degenerate man. One rebels, the other looked for fast love. Yeah, it's deep, man. Cortez says it's actually creepy. Both black and white women fetishize black men. It seems to affect many peoples, right? Altair says black men who don't mind being fetishized are pathetic and lack self-respect. I absolutely agree. You know, and this is, I think we spoke about this on several streams back. You know, I think it was the stream about man, I can't even remember the streams. I think maybe talking about incels in Britain. Like some people say, yeah, I don't mind being objectified. I don't mind being the fetish. This is what I hear from some people who travel as well. I don't mind being a fetish, you know, because I'm being chosen and I'm being given the kind of love that I've always sought. And the problem with that is that you will only ever be like, well, if that's your goal to just smash, then sure. But in many cases, a lot of these type of guys want that long-term, you know, homely, wholesome love, right? So if that's what you want, then you have to be ready for the fact that the next person who looks just like you, you know, maybe even worse than you, you know, with picky hair and you know, yeah, that might just be the next flavor of the month. You know, that's how that works. And I think we have a problem with pride and dignity. Online account says, exactly, interracial stats in the UK is very different in the US, which is a very racialized country as opposed to the UK. Yeah. You know, this is what I'm trying. It's hard to find the UK stats that pertain to these type of issues. And obviously America has the biggest market or the bigger contrast with these situations. So it's often that we use it, you know, especially as an English speaking country. But yeah, I mean, we are actually very different from our US brethren. So it's only right to use stats that are relevant to us. And that's what I'm trying to do. What else are you saying? The link's in the chat if you want to join up. If not, I think I'm going to round it off in about 5-10 minutes. And then we'll call it a night. So have a nice short one. Let's see what's saying in the chat. But like the stream, if you've understood, if you've enjoyed, you know, I understand it's not a subject that pertains to a lot of people. This is a UK specific subject, but I have to cover these type of things. Moonshine says he was born in the UK and moved to the USA when young, then got deported. That's correct. So the article says that he was from Birmingham. Why she go for a felon? Hey, that is the £1 million question that a lot of people are asking in this community, right? And Altair says the only victim in the situation is the baby. Absolutely. Absolutely tragic. I believe they found the baby. They found the body near where they were arrested, outside. Can you imagine? And I think that is a good illustration of some segments of our community, man. Just mindlessness. Cortez says, yep, a lot of dudes have low self-esteem. They're just happy to be chosen by a chick. But then I also think it's the reverse as well. Why would an aristocrat's daughter choose this caliber of man? You know, that's another thing that we need to also address. You know, because that can only mean low self-esteem on the woman's part. Right? And I've kind of seen real life situations of that play out. It's almost like, I don't want to go too deep on this, but it's almost like, you know, because that aristocrat's daughter will be paired up with someone of a similar stature, and it's like, nah, she doesn't have to take that crap anymore. She doesn't have to live to these certain standards. You know, she doesn't have to, you know, live by this etiquette. So why not just go for someone in a lower social economic class or status and do whatever the hell she wants and live reckless. You know, that's what I've equated it to be when I see it. Especially in this age of so-called liberation. Right? But there is a lot of women out there with low self-esteem too. Let's see what you're saying in the chat. Salute to everyone in the building, by the way. Altair says, all this talk and hype about progression, but nothing changes. I wonder what you're talking about. If you can expound on that talking point. That sounds interesting. Yeah, absolutely. That John guy doesn't understand how propaganda works. You got this dude plastered on headline news. You know, he has already been accused of rape. Running around with some aristocrat's daughter, and an infant has died in the wake of this madness. Yeah, that is quite strong propaganda, bro. Let's see what anyone else is saying. I see J. Lou in the building. Says, Telem, salute to you. The link's there if anyone wants to jump on, but I'm going to close it off in a few minutes. Yeah, Matt Gamer says, why would you go on the run with the baby? You know, you could have left the baby with someone instead of doing what they did. Yeah, absolutely craziness. You know, so I guess it brings their mental health into question as well. You know, I mean, the article was stating manslaughter. So it's almost as if it was an accidental incident. It's just wild. Let's see what you're saying. Listen. Hey, J. Lou, what do you mean by that? You said one Turkish, one Italian. Lesson learned. You need to expand on that, because that sounds interesting as well, bro. Matt Gamer says 4.2% black people in the UK, 3% mixed race people in the UK, already nearly overtaken. George McFly says all relationships fail. George McFly says relationships are a scam. Man's going in. And you guys are talking about other people that are no longer present in this chat room, which is funny. But salute to everyone in the building, man. I think after the 1 hour mark, which is where we are now, I'm going to call it a night. I see MJA 2873 in the building. He says something quite interesting. He says interracial relationships are really based on curiosity and status. Oh, that curiosity part, man. Like I said, I made a quite deep video about it. You know, the curiosity part. And I just think that if you are aware of that and you turn a blind eye to it, man, and you also are, you're head over heels for the situation, you're gonna reach a bumpy road. You know, And so just to clarify, man, I'm not, and I've never been against interracial relationships. You know, if we are talking about relationships, I am for people getting together who absolutely, you know, appreciate each other for, you know, in a way that's conducive for rearing a family, because that's all I really see relationships for at the end of the day, is for providing a bedrock for children, if you want children. Online account says, could you elaborate why interracial relationships to some is viewed as a bad thing? If you can, who's viewing it as a bad thing? I think personally, like I said, I don't think it's a bad thing, and I think I'll be hypocritical if I said that, because of course I myself, you know, you should know my situations, but you know, I'm very aware of the type of people that would just entertain relationships based off of curiosity, like someone said, like MJ said, and status, which is another big talking point, because, you know, we talk about these swirling communities and movements, right? Many people talk about hypergamy. And I believe there is a racialized hypergamy game in the mix. Let's see what anyone else is saying before I close it. Cortez says it's hard to find real interracial stats. It's like they're purposely hidden. That's a strong point. And some people are saying some mad stuff, but yeah, man, this was just my take on this pressing situation here in the UK, man. I think it is a tragedy, but ultimately I think it is a bad illustration, and it is definitely negative propaganda towards black men in the UK, because this is used, some people are going to look at this headline and use it as a teachable moment, potentially, right? And in some cases it should be. In no reality should someone, you know, as an aristocrat's daughter, be dealing with someone who's just come out of the pen and been deported. I don't understand it. P in the building, he says, salute Falcon. I was just researching on the net. I think her family descend from slave ownership in Jamaica. That's interesting. Her name does sound Dutch. I'm sure they're from the Netherlands. Moonshine, saying something quite deep. You must deal with cultural values first before engaging in serious relationships as a baseline. But yeah, yeah, this is how I feel in this situation, man. I think it's quite damning. It's a bad situation. It had to be spoken about. I'm not against IR relationships, IR dating, and I think I showcased that with some of the videos that I produce as well, for those people who want to, you know, who are in that mindset. But yeah, I acknowledge that there are weird situations like this where young people might have to die or potentially even worse, grow up the rest of their life unstable, prone to going to prison, you know, all the stuff that we've heard so much. But yeah, online account says exactly, I feel the same way, how this will be used for propaganda by nationalist racists. Absolutely it will be, of course. You know, and funny enough, in every headline they bring up the fact that the black guy's a felon and the white woman is an aristocrat. Right. But I'm gonna end it here. I mean, I think I've expounded on my thoughts a lot. I appreciate everyone who came through the building. I suggest you read more about the situation, right? Because it is a damning one, like I said, you know, and obviously it's very fresh as well, you know, so there's lots to learn. And I hope you understand my point of view. And if you disagree, feel free to comment below in the videos. If you have any points of view on the situation, comment below. I'm sure this live stream will be searched by newcomers. So if you like what you hear over here, consider hitting the subscribe button. Like the video before we jump out. It's Thursday, so as always, Tuesday and Thursdays from about 9:30 p.m. is when I do my live streams. So feel free to tune in then. Usually in the call-in format, and videos all throughout the week. Okay. But salute to everyone who came through. Salute to the super chat, the support, and I appreciate the real ones. Look, I know I went on a tangent earlier on, but I appreciate the real ones. You know, I'm not expecting everyone to want to support. You know, there are metrics to this, right? Like, it's like for the views of a video, not everyone's gonna like the video. You know, about 10% of everyone who views the video is gonna like it, right? I fully understand that, and I'm fully aware of that. But I think when we start talking about, oh, why don't black men support each other, like it's a conundrum, like it's very obvious. You know, I guess this is what a lot of what I address, I try to get to grips with. Is it a lack of trust? Is it, you know, are people just, or just people just don't believe in community? People don't want some sort of community. People just want to be lone wolves, right? But don't complain about lack of support if you, as an individual, don't show support. And I'm not even talking about myself. I'm talking about to the other people around you, you know. But with that being said, peace and blessings to everyone. Have a good weekend, and I'll catch you in the next streams next week. But for now, it's been Falcon Blizzak, and it's Falcon Blizzak out. Peace.
Falcon
Blizzak.